Okay, so here's where we left off. We have all three elements still selected, and we're basically moving around the keys and working with our timing. So what I was going to do next was I was going to take a look at the rooster here to find out when the camera kind of stopped. We said it was like 66, but then what we want to do is, let's see here, refresh myself here. Kind of needs to be caught. Okay, so here's what's happening. In the layout, if we take a look, or the animatic, what happens is the rooster is not in this, is not here to start out with. He falls straight down. Okay, so let's thumb through that here. He falls straight down, lands on the ram, and then slides forward into frame. Okay, so that's kind of what we need to happen here next. And for that, I'm going to figure out where that was. In fact, I'm just going to use this again to figure out where he actually does land. And it looks like it's around 34. Okay, so thank you. So he should be landing right around there. So I'm going to save a key to everything right around there. And then I'm going to grab the sheep, or the lamb, or the ram, and I'm going to actually copy this keyframe. So I'm going to middle click, and I'm going to copy it over here and save a key. So basically he's there right now, but I want him to be underneath here and then slide forward. So I'm just going to move him back now. Okay, and then same thing with the rooster. I want him to be here, so I'm going to copy that frame. So again, he's way over here, but I want to move him back so that he lands on the ram, and then they both move forward together. So that's the idea. Now the curves are pretty screwy, I'm sure, and that's the reason why they're kind of sliding around, but for the most part you kind of get the idea of what we're trying to do here. So what we can do is we can go in here and we can play around with the curves, which I highly recommend we do, but for purposes of this, I think I'm just going to leave it alone. Sorry. And let's take a look at and see what it looks like in the view here. Okay, so now we need the camera to kind of catch up and do the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to pick the camera, and I am going to, I'm actually just going to, I don't want it to be the exact same thing because I don't want the camera to be just totally still. So I'm going to actually borrow a couple of these frames for padding. I'm going to middle click, I'm going to drag over to 145, and I'm going to set a keyframe. And what that did is it basically took not this keyframe, but this frame, where it was on this frame, and brought it over to here. Does that make sense? So it's a quick and dirty way of getting free padding to your shot, so it's not just a still image. And so what we have here is we have the rooster falling, being caught on the back, and then both of them sliding forward in position. Now I need to be able to hold the camera and then have it tilt forward. So again, I'm going to go back to the animatic for this, and I'll find out where that happens. It holds, and it looks like somewhere around 90 it starts to go forward. So it's going to be 198 or 199 roughly that it's going to hold. So already it's starting to move down. I don't want it to do that yet. I want it to do it right here. So I'm going to middle click and drag it over to 199, save a key, and now it should hold a straight curve. It shouldn't move at all, and then it should scroll down. But now it's getting there too slow, so I need to change the timing on that. So here's kind of, well, you know what, for purposes of this, let's go ahead and figure out how long he's choosing to do his movement down. Looks like 10 frames is what he's putting in there. So let's go ahead and put in 10 frames. So we're at 199. It's going to be 209. So I'm going to go to this frame. I'm going to middle click. Actually, you know what? He's not even framed properly. So why don't we do that first? Where's the camera? Show camera. Okay, looks like we're not low enough. So we'll probably have to adjust this a little bit. And I guess now's as good a time as any to do that. Pull back a little bit. Yeah, this isn't going to work. Looks like we might have to change our focal length to something a little bit tighter. Maybe like a 35, maybe. A little bit wider, I mean, or yeah, tighter. So I'm going to change that. And I'm going to back this out. And I'm going to rotate this up. And does it frame it a little bit better? Not totally. Okay, let's go with more of a kind of making up a lens here. I don't necessarily want to do 50, but let's just go with a 50. See what we get. So obviously that seems to be a little bit better of framing for that, but then when we scroll down, this kind of looks correct with the animatic. If you take a look at the two, the animatic is still a little bit further out. But the rooster is way more in frame here, so it might be that we have to translate the camera out a little bit to compensate. So maybe we can play around with that. So maybe it's something like this. I don't know. I don't really like doing that because it's kind of a weird move, but just to kind of play around with it. Let's see what we get here. So we got to reframe the rooster here. Here, let's do this. Let's keep this frame. Okay, and let's just rotate up. What's that?
Can you just move the sheet itself a little bit back?
I suppose. I mean, I suppose that I could have the rooster landing a little bit higher on him, which might be probably the easiest solution. It's not bad. Let me do that. I like it. Like that. And okay.
I think sometimes, I mean, I'm not referring to this shot, but sometimes you might have to cheat things a little bit because they're not very accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, you'll see in the animatic, he has a lot of shots that are from, he's in the room and he's looking down at the barn. But if you look at the two buildings, they're actually level. So if you were looking out at that building directly, you would actually just be looking straight ahead,
Right.
not down to the barn. So in that sort of scenario, you might have to translate the house up or something
Right.
like that, right? Which, I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna catch that. We did notice that, and we just decided that, we're just gonna cheat it. So
Okay.
sometimes you might have to do that.
Well, let's go with this solution real quick, because I don't, you can't really do that with a character per se.
Yeah, that's
Um,
different, yeah.
But this does give me a little bit better of a framing, and so I do like that. Good call on that one. So let's just get my end framing here a little bit better. Get as close as we can. Okay, and then scroll up. Hopefully it'll be pretty close. That's not bad. That's not bad. And we could actually probably pull forward a little bit with that too. So why don't we do that? Just get a little bit closer. This way it's just a little bit of a pullback as we're rotating down. So if you watch the camera right here, as we pan down, it kind of like scoops back. And I think that's perfectly legitimate for what we want to do. And I think it solves the problem properly. So good call on that. Really good call. So, so let's just make sure the rest of this syncs up properly.
So you would just kind of leave the characters there, and then the animators would go in and animate those things, like the characters that you left there.
Say again?
So you would just leave the characters there, right, in the scene, and then the animators open the scene and then just start animating them?
You can do that.
Or how do they do it? Do they try to match up where you have the character, or do they just animate the one that
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, these are kind of stand-ins right now,
Yeah.
and they're not final rigs by any means. If we had the final rig, then you could do either or. I know people who have worked with the layout that was there. I know some people that have kind of just used the layout as a template, and they just kind of animated on top of it. This is basically supposed to just give you the camera. Okay, so you're supposed to frame, as an animator, you're supposed to take the layout, and you can blow the characters away, but you have to keep the framing. Okay, so it's a guide for timing and framing. Okay, so that's basically what this works out to be. So let's see here. So now that I've changed the lens, I need to adjust my initial shot. Move it back just a little bit, down, rotate it up. So I'm kind of losing the house here. I guess that's okay, not a big deal. I would like to have it in there, but and again, I'm kind of jumping the gun here. We want the rooster to fall first and then have the camera follow it. You know, you need to have something that kind of causes the camera to move, and that's the rooster falling in this shot. So I'm going to delay this by a couple frames, have the rooster fall, and then that initiates the camera, and it kind of keeps it in frame a little bit longer. Boom, we see the so what we want to do is we want to keep this exact framing. Okay, so I want to keep this, and then I want to move 10 frames to 209, as we talked about earlier. This last framing we want to happen 10 frames later, so that's 209. So I'm middle click, drag, and save a key there. So that should be my pan down. Boom. Okay. And when you go into this, you're going to want to mess around with the curves a little bit so that it kind of cushions a little bit. So what I would do is I would probably save a keyframe on maybe 213 and then borrow from either 207 or 208 and save that key over there, and basically that gives me a little bit of a cushion. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm running out of time here, but for the most part it looks like the only thing that I really have to do is kind of get the rooster into the shot to look like he's jumping. So I'll add a little bit of an arc to him by going into world, and he starts here. I want to have him arc up a little bit. There he is. And for the most part, that's the shot. Okay? All right. Hope you got something out of that. Thanks for your help. And good luck.
I did assign you guys some shots if we, after he moves the schedule to the drive, please look for what the shots are.